and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. Less than a week after successfully executing an anti-satellite weapons test, India put another key asset in space, its first electromagnetic intelligence satellite, EMISAT. On 1st April 2019, ISRO launched the satellite on board its most trusted workhorse, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Sriharikota. EMISAT is a major milestone for India in electronic intelligence as it bolsters our defence capabilities. The powerful surveillance satellite will act as India's radar sniffer in sky, protecting its assets, including fighter jets and spacecraft, by detecting radars in enemy territory. In today's edition of In Depth, we talk about this impressive feat and how will it add to the firepower of Indian armed forces. We'll also take a look at India's remarkable space journey. The Indian Space Research Organisation launched the country's first electronic surveillance satellite, EMISAT, from Sriharikota in coastal Andhra Pradesh. As many as 28 small satellites of international customers were also put in space as secondary riders. The mission witnessed ISRO placing payloads in 3 orbits for the first time. The EMISAT satellite is an intelligence satellite and aimed at electromagnetic measurement.
At 9:27 a.m. on 1st April 2019, Indian Space Agency ISRO launched electronic intelligence satellite EMISAT along with 28 nanosatellites of global customers. With this, India seeks to give birth to a new surveillance satellite with a special mission of the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle PSLV C-45 that has many firsts. Around 17 minutes after liftoff, PSLV placed EMISAT in an orbit at a 753.6 kilometer altitude. EMISAT weighs 436 kilograms. The other 28 international satellites, including 25 3U type, 2 6U type and 1 2U type nanosatellites, including 2 from Lithuania, 1 from Spain, 1 from Switzerland and 24 from United States. ISRO Chairman K. Sivan and scientists of the Space Agency expressed happiness over the entry of EMISAT satellite into the orbit located at a distance of 749 kilometers. Meanwhile, the small cube satellites belonging to 4 countries and together weighing 220 kilograms were released after about 40 minutes at a lower orbit of 504 kilometers.
PSLV C-45 has successfully injected ISRO'S made EMISAT in 748 kilometer orbit as well as 28 customer satellites in 504 kilometer orbit.
This mission is very special for India because it is the first such mission of ISRO which has placed satellites in 3 different orbits. It is also the first mission to place solar panels in 4 stages. Among the satellites launched in this mission, the most important one is EMISAT or Electronic Intelligence Satellite. It will help DRDO in defense research. The EMISAT is aimed at electromagnetic measurement. ISRO and DRDO have jointly worked on this satellite mission. For the first time, Indian Space Research Organisation invited common people to view the launch. For this, ISRO prepared a gallery in which sitting arrangement for people was done. 2 launch pads could be seen from the gallery.
You see, one of the most significant points about this particular launch is that it has attained to deliver satellites in 3 different orbits in one launch, which is not an easy task, Because, when a rocket is used to launch a satellite, the satellite is released from the rocket and the rocket falls down, the stages, I would say, first, second, third stage. But in this case, that has not happened. After launching EMISAT, the rocket didn't fall back to the Earth. It went round the Earth once and then went to a lower orbit from 795 to I think 500 something, and then released these 28 small satellites. After releasing those satellites, it again went round the Earth once and went to a still lower orbit, 400 some kilometers. And there it is now orbiting and acting as a space platform for doing scientific experiments. And interestingly, this is the first time that ISRO has used solar panels on a fourth stage of a rocket, so that the scientific experiments can be continued for a long time.
After the successful launch of the mission, ISRO Chairman K. Sivan also informed about other key missions which are to be launched in 2019. That also includes Chandrayaan-2 mission.
There are a lot of work for my team. Immediately by May middle, we are going to have PSLV C46 that is going to launch RSAT-2B, followed by PSLV C47. It is going to inject or launch a high precision COTO-3 satellite. Then we are going to have Chandrayaan-2 and so on. Maybe by the end of this year, maybe another 30 missions, that is which is combination of launch vehicle and spacecraft is going to be there.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu congratulated the scientists on the success of ISRO. He tweeted that the recent successes in science and technology have enhanced the self-confidence of the country. Calling the strategically EMISAT a significant success, he said, the country is proud of the success of our scientists. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also congratulated ISRO scientists on the success of this mission.
सफलतापूर्वक लॉन्च करके 5 देशों की 2 दर्जन से ज्यादा सैटेलाइट को अंतरिक्ष में स्थापित किया गया है। देशवासियों की तरफ से सबसे पहले अपने वैज्ञानिकों को बधाई देता हूं।
A new variant of the rocket, PSLV QL, equipped with 4 strap-on motors in the first stage, was used for the launch. The Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, or PSLV, has been used in 2 major missions in India. PSLV was used in Chandrayaan mission in 2008 and in the Mars mission in 2013. With inputs from Divakar, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The EMISAT is expected to improve surveillance and satellite imagery to boost arsenal of India's armed forces. It will be used to intercept signals not only on ground and at high resolution from space, but also for the Indian Navy. Experts believe it will drastically enhance India's surgical warfare capacity. In our next report, let's look at how EMISAT will bolster India's defense capabilities. ISRO launched the EMISAT, or Electromagnetic Intelligence Satellite, in a complex mission. The military satellite was launched aboard the PSLV C-45 medium lift launch vehicle in its 47th mission.
You see, EMISAT is like any other satellite. It is put in a polar orbit, and it will definitely, according to ISRO, it will do electromagnetic spectrum measurement, which means that electromagnetic spectrum is that all the communication that goes in air is through electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic waves. So this satellite will carry out a study of these spectra, how communication is being done and all, from space.
EMISAT, India's first electronic surveillance system, is a result of 5-year development jointly by ISRO and DRDO. The satellite will gather information on enemy radar positions from a sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude of about 750 kilometers with an inclination of 98.4 degrees. It will achieve this through electromagnetic spectrum measurement. The launch adds to India's space surveillance capability. It will provide pinpoint location of enemy radars by detecting electromagnetic signals emitted by them. A radar emits radio waves in specific frequencies that hit the targets and bounce back, telling the radar the nature of the target, its movement and distance. EMISAT carries instrumentation capable of detecting, locating and characterizing electromagnetic signals, specifically of military radars.
Intelligence satellite is a satellite which you use for assessing the capabilities of countries where you want to keep a watch. Okay, like for example, you may want to intercept the messages being passed on between the another country's defense forces. Okay, so you intercept that electronic information, which usually goes through some kind of a radio wave, and then of course it will be encrypted, so you try to break the code and then understand what kind of messages they are sending. Similarly, for example, if you watch, if from some particular point there are suddenly too much of messages coming, so which means that something is happening over there, right? So you can keep a watch what is happening over there. Or you can use a remote sensing camera to watch whether the troops are moving, which direction they are moving, are they massing in one place, you know, all these kinds of things you can watch. This is called as intelligence satellite, a satellite that you are putting to watch over your borders.
EMISAT has a basic architecture similar to HISIS, which is based on small satellite bus 2 used in Israeli spy satellite Saral. The main capability of EMISAT is in signal intelligence, intercepting signals broadcast by communication systems, radars and other electronic systems on the ground from hundreds of kilometers away in space. The Ka band frequency that EMISAT is sensitive to allows it to scan through ice, rain, coastal zones, land masses, forests and wave heights relatively easily. The ELINT payload of the satellite was developed under Project Kautilya by Defence Electronics Research Laboratory in Hyderabad. The project was first acknowledged in the Ministry of Defence Annual Report 2013-14.
EMISAT is part of what is called as Electronic Intelligence Satellite. It's a part of a project of DRDO or a Defence Research Laboratory called as Project Kautilya. So the aim is that you assess the capabilities of countries nearby you. You know their military strengths, you know what they are doing, so that you can be prepared. That's a main aim. Using electronic intelligence. Okay. In this particular case, what this satellite is going to do is look for radar and radar's fingerprints. See, when you have a radar, it will be emitting radiation in a particular characteristic way. So if you study, then you will be able to know even the foreign countries' secret radars. What are they, how much is their power, where are they located, if they are going to move it, where are they moved. You can keep tab of all these things, which will be very, very useful in case of any exigencies that India needs to face. So this is the major part of this EMISAT.
Defense experts say EMISAT can be a valuable tool for India in carrying out stealth air operations in enemy territory. It can help the Indian Air Force carry out operations similar to the Balakot surgical strikes with greater confidence. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. ISRO'S PSLV or Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle is India's most trusted space launcher. It earned its title the workhorse of ISRO through consistently delivering various satellites to low Earth orbits, particularly the IRS series of satellites. Its customer list includes 28 countries, including the United States of America, United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, Korea, and Singapore. In our next report, we look at the specialities of PSLV and how it emerged as India's most reliable and versatile launcher. India's third-generation launch vehicle, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, is the first Indian launch vehicle to be equipped with liquid stages. PSLV can place 1,600 kilogram remote sensing satellites into Sun Synchronous Orbit or SSO and 1,050 kilogram small-size spacecraft into geostationary transfer orbit. The development of PSLV began in early 1990s at the Vikram Sarabhai Space Centre in Kerala. PSLV took its first flight on 20th September 1993, but an altitude control error in the second and third stages resulted in the failure of the launch mission. The first successful launch of the PSLV into SSO with IRS P2 satellite aboard was completed in October 1994. With further successful launches, the PSLV became the prominent rocket launcher for Indian as well as foreign satellite launches. A PSLV vehicle is 44 meters in height and 2.8 meters in diameter. The liftoff mass is 320 tons and is fitted with an inertial guidance system to accomplish navigation, guidance and altitude control missions. Its three variants are PSLV-G, PSLV-CA and PSLV-XL.
PSLV is one of the strength of ISRO, one should say so. If you look at its full form, it's a polar satellite launch vehicle. So it's a 4-stage rocket. It can take something like about 4-ton payload to a low Earth orbit. This is a workhorse of ISRO. Until now, it has functioned very flawlessly, except for one or two initial hiccups. It has given continuous success until now. So it's one of the world's reliable satellite launcher.
There are currently two operational versions of the PSLV. The core-alone PSLV-CA without any strap-on motors, a configuration specifically used in missions featuring small payloads. It carries 400 kg less propellant than the standard model and can launch 1100 kg of payload to SSO. The maiden flight of the PSLV-CA took place on 23rd April 2007. The PSLV-XL version is incorporated with 6 strap-on motors to carry 4000 kg more propellant compared with standard PSLV. The maiden launch of PSLV-XL with Chandrayaan-1 aboard took place on 22nd October 2008.
The PSLV is for low Earth orbit, and it can also do multiple launches. Multiple payloads can be placed. That's a capability of PSLV, and it has become an internationally reliable launch vehicle. So many foreign countries are also coming forward to use this facility.
The PSLV has a 4-stage system comprising a combination of solid and liquid-fueled rocket stages. The first stage at the very bottom is solid-fueled, having 6 strap-on solid rocket boosters wrapped around it. The second stage is liquid-fueled, whereas the third stage has a solid-fueled rocket motor. At the fourth stage, the launcher uses a liquid propellant to boost in the outer space. The launch vehicle can be customized to fly in 3 different configurations according to the mission requirements. Once launched, none of the parts of the PSLV are recovered or reused. With a success rate of 93%, PSLV mirrors the steady rise of India's space program in recent decades. So far, PSLV has launched 46 national satellites, 10 satellites built by students from Indian universities, and 297 international customer satellites. The vehicle successfully launched 2 spacecraft, Chandrayaan-1 in 2008 and Mars Orbiter spacecraft in 2013 that later traveled to Moon and Mars respectively. In its next mission, PSLV C-46 will launch RISAT-2B in May 2019. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. It was on 21st November 1963 that a small rocket took off from Tumba on the outskirts of Thiruvananthapuram, announcing the birth of the modern space age in India. Since then, India has created a milestone in the country's space program. Today, the Indian Space Research Organization is launching satellites for itself as well as for several other countries. Not only this, we have also achieved success in reaching Mars. We leave you with this report that takes a look at India's space programs over the years. Thank you very much for your time.
Space exploration in India began in the 1960s. Dr. Vikram Sarabhai was a physicist and industrialist who initiated space research and helped develop nuclear power in India. He is also popularly known as the father of India's space program. Sarabhai was instrumental in establishing the Physical Research Laboratory in Ahmedabad after returning from Cambridge in 1947. India launched its first sounding rocket from Tumba near Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala on 21st November 1963, marking the beginning of the Indian space program. It was in 1962 that the Indian National Committee for Space Research was set up. It laid the foundation of Indian Space Research Organisation in 1969. After setting up ISRO, the government constituted the Space Commission. It established the Department of Space in June 1972 and brought ISRO under the Department of Space in September 1972. India launched its first satellite Aryabhatta in 1975 and then in 1979 Bhaskara 1 was launched. Aryabhatta weighed 360 kilograms. On 10th August 1979, ISRO launched a series of satellites and named the mission Rohini. The Rohini series had 4 satellites, all launched by the Satellite Launch Vehicle, and 3 that made it successfully to orbit. The series were mostly experimental satellites. The Ariane Passenger Payload Experiment, or APPLE, was ISRO's first indigenous experimental communication satellite. It was launched on June 19, 1981. ISRO took a huge step by developing telecommunications satellite. The Indian National Satellite or INSAT system is one of the largest domestic communication satellite systems in the Asia-Pacific region, with 9 operational communication satellites placed in geostationary orbit. It was commissioned in 1983. On 30th August 1983, the INSAT 1B satellite was launched. Its full operational capability was achieved in October 1983. Rakesh Sharma made history by becoming the first and only Indian to travel to space in a Soviet rocket that was launched on April 2, 1984. Then, on 17 March 1988, ISRO launched its first remote sensing mission, IRS-1A. It was a part operational, part experimental mission to develop Indian expertise in satellite imagery. The first multi-purpose satellite, INSAT-2A, built by India, was successfully operationalized in August 1992. INSAT-2A-B of the INSAT-2 series of satellites was launched on July 23, 1993. These are all multi-purpose satellites for telecommunication. On September 29, 1997, ISRO launched its first fully operational satellite aboard a locally developed rocket. India's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, or PSLV, slid into orbit, an Earth imaging satellite, after a textbook liftoff from Sriharikota Island. Kalpana 1 was the first dedicated meteorological satellite launched by ISRO using PSLV on September 12, 2002. Then ISRO launched the GSAT-3, also known as EduSat, a communications satellite, on 20th September 2004. EduSat is the first Indian satellite built exclusively to serve the educational sector. On December 22, 2005, ISRO successfully launched INSAT-4A from the European Ariane 5G launch vehicle of Arianespace. With 12 high-power Ku-band transponders, INSAT-4A was the first satellite to meet the requirement of direct-to-home television services, apart from carrying 12 C-band transponders to augment the INSAT capacity for communication and TV services. And with the successful launch of Chandrayaan-1 on October 22, 2008, ISRO's historic moon mission began. It was sent in space through PSLV C-11. ISRO had another major success on July 1, 2013, when it launched the IRNSS-1A navigation satellite. Along with this, India has stepped into making its own GPS system on the lines of America.
If you look at the globe, something like about 195 countries are there. Some of them are very, very small, tiny, small islands, so leave them. If you look at some big countries, something like about 30-40 countries one can identify. Of that, if you look at it, it's just about 5 countries which have the complete spectrum of space technology. From a launch vehicle to building a satellite to running a satellite to using it ground. The complete spectrum, only about 5 countries have: Russia, America, Europe, China and India. So that I think clearly shows the place that we are in the international table.
It was on 5th November 2013 when India successfully launched its Mars Orbiter mission, or Mangalyaan, a space probe orbiting Mars since 24th September 2014. The 350-ton Mangalyaan was scheduled to orbit Earth for nearly a month, building up the necessary velocity to break free from our planet's gravitational pull. The total cost of the project was 450 crore rupees, 1/6 of the cost of a Mars probe set to be launched by NASA in 13 days. IRNSS-1I was the 8th navigational satellite to join the IRNSS space segment launched by the ISRO in April 2018.
The surprising thing is that India is the only country that has succeeded in reaching Mars in the first attempt. See, Mangalyaan, that was launched and it reached the orbit as predetermined without any failure. And India has become the only country till now which has reached the Mars without failure, without any problem.
On February 15, 2017, ISRO wrote a new chapter in the history of space research by creating a world record of launching 104 satellites simultaneously through the PSLV C-37. This was the 38th successful mission of PSLV in a row. The total weight of all the 104 satellites carried on board PSLV C-37 was 1,378 kgs. PSLV C-37 blasted off first from the launch pad at the Satish Dhawan Space Centre and first injected Cartosat-2 series satellites into orbit, followed by the other 103 nano satellites, including 96 from the US, in a gap of about 30 minutes. The GSLV Mark III, the heaviest rocket ever made by India and capable of carrying large payloads, was launched from Sriharikota on June 5, 2017. The GSLV Mark III was designed to carry 4-ton class of satellites into the geosynchronous transfer orbit, which is about twice the capability of GSLV Mark II. At the same time, India has made its place in the field of space technology. On June 29, 2017, ISRO launched GSAT-17, the heaviest satellite ever, weighing 3,477 kilograms. On January 12, 2018, ISRO successfully launched 31 satellites in a single flight. The PSLV carried 31 satellites in total from countries including India and 6 others. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.